Welcome to the channel. Today we'll be taking a closer look at a fundamental topic for understanding the current global economic context: customs tariff. As we all know, US President Donald Trump recently introduced a tariff on Canada, Mexico and China, and not a day goes by that it doesn't threaten to introduce new ones on the European Union as well. But to date, it is absolutely impossible to understand Trump's strategy because the tariffs that should have come into force in early March have been postponed by at least a month. A proof that the topic is difficult, or that perhaps our Donald is not really so smart. We will see how it turns out. For this reason, I think it is useful to deepen what custom duties are, why they are introduced by governments, and we will analyze as well the tariff imposed by Trump administration. We will also explore the practical consequences for business and consumers around the world. These are the top points we will cover today. What tariffs are and why they are used. Who is affected by tariffs? Trump's tariff, the reactions, threats against Europe, and the long-term impact and business strategies. So let's start with the first topic. What are tariffs and why are they used? Tariff is a tax that a country imposes on goods imported from abroad. These taxes serve various purposes. They can be protectionist tools to safeguard domestic industries, address trade deficits, generate additional tax revenue, or act as a form of political leverage in international relations. Governments often introduce tariffs to protect specific domestic economic sectors from foreign competition, allowing local industries to develop or remain competitive. This is especially true in sensitive sectors such as agriculture, steel, or the automotive industry. Additionally, tariffs can be used to rebalance perceived trade imbalances that might be harmful to the domestic economy, as was the case in the United States under Trump's first term, where the large trade deficit with China was viewed as a threat to the United States economy. A basic idea behind tariffs is that by raising the cost of imported goods, consumers will choose to buy domestic products instead. For example, a tariff on electric cars from China is theoretically intended to encourage the purchase of vehicles produced in the United States. However, the market is much more complex. Consumer choices do not depend solely on price, but also on factors such as product performance, market availability, and maybe overall quality. Thus, the effectiveness of tariff varies significantly depending on the type of product, on the level of consumer interest. If a product is indispensable for or highly desired, consumers might be willing to pay the extra cost due to tariff, meaning they would bear most of the burden rather than the foreign producer. Conversely, if a product can easily be replaced by a local alternative, the burden of the tariff might be borne by the foreign producer, who may need to reduce their profit margin to stay competitive. For example, if China started exporting orange juice to the United States, so American consumers would likely be unwilling to bear the additional costs imposed by tariffs, given the availability of high quality of locally produced orange juice. In this specific case, the Chinese producers would probably have to lower their selling price to offset the tariff. So at the end of the day, the effects depend heavily on what in microeconomics is called elasticity of demand, which is the responsiveness of consumers to price changes. An elastic demand occurs when a small change in price causes a large change in the quantity demanded. In practice, consumers are very sensitive to price, so if the price increases a bit, demand drops significantly, or vice versa. A classic example of good with very elastic demand could be fast fashion clothing, t-shirt, jeans, etc. from brands that look a lot alike. Why it is elastic? Because consumers have many alternative and similar products available. If a single brand raises the price, customers can easily switch to another brand without giving up the same type of product. So, at the end of the day, even a small change in price can cause a significant drop in the quantity sold. On the contrary, inelastic demand occurs when even major price changes do not change the quantity demanded that much. In this case, consumers are not much more affected by the price and continue to buy or not to buy, regardless of cost fluctuations. A classic example of a very inelastic demand is insulin, or more generally essential medicine. Because people with diabetes need insulin to survive, and there is no perfectly equivalent substitute. Even if the price increases a lot, the amount required doesn't decrease significantly, because insulin users simply can't do without it. Back to our duties. If demand is very elastic, duties tend to fall mainly on foreign producers. On the contrary, in the case of inelastic demand, it is local consumers who bear most of the burden. Normally, in everyday economic reality, the burden of tariff is distributed between consumers and producers. Another important aspect of tariff is income redistribution. Tariff can influence how income is distributed within society, affecting different economic groups in different ways. They generally cause a general increase in prices, which tends to weigh more heavily on lower income consumers, especially if they are applied to essential goods. So, long story short, tariff must be managed very carefully to balance protectionism with global competitiveness, while avoiding negative long-term economic and social effects. Now, a good question could be, who gains from tariff? In any case, those who always gain are governments, which collect the value of the duties through customs. Just an example, about 14% of the European Union budget depends on tariff, which is a special case since it is a custom union. It means that there are no tariff or trade constraints between the countries within it, and that it relates to other countries as a single entity. All European countries apply and are subject to the same duties. Italy, for example, cannot voluntarily impose a duty on cheese produced in the United States because only the European Union can do so, just as the United States cannot impose duties on cheese from Italy, but only on cheese from the entire Union. Customs authorities of the member countries cooperate as if they are a single entity. But beware, this is still a Pyrrhic victory for governments. Exaggerating with tariff means depressing the economic, and this, in the long run, penalizes the governments themselves. And now our second topic. Who is affected by tariffs? Tariffs directly affect various economic actors, both in the short and in the long run. First of all, importers. Companies that import goods from abroad have to deal with the additional cost resulting from tariffs. These increases may force importers to look for alternative suppliers, often at a higher cost or with lower quality. And consumers. Usually, the higher costs faced by importers are reflected in the final prices of goods, negatively impacting consumers' purchasing power and reducing demand for certain products. And again, exporter. Businesses that export goods to countries that have introduced tariffs see their competitive drop as their products become less economically attractive in foreign markets. And last, the entire global economy. The introduction of tariffs can generate major economic uncertainty, reducing investment readiness and destabilizing financial markets. For example, imposing tariff on steel can significantly raise costs for manufacturing companies, forcing them to raise final prices or cut profit. This can cause global economic tension, affect the overall climate or trust and international cooperation. In summary, while tariff might seem like an immediate solution for protecting local economies, their overall impact requires careful management to avoid long-term negative consequences. And now let's have a look to Trump's tariff against Canada, Mexico and China. Just over a month into his presidency, Trump introduced a series of tariffs with the stated goal of boosting the United States economy. These measures primarily target Canada and Mexico with 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, with significant repercussion on production costs and export. And China, tariff ranging from 10 up to 20% on almost all Chinese imports in response to alleged unfair trade practices, particularly and with some good reason, concerning technology and intellectual property. Immediate reactions on the final markets were, of course, negative. In the United States, a sharp declines in Dow Jones, Standard & Poor's and Nasdaq, as well as in the major European stock markets. But obviously, and here it seems almost incredible that no one in the White House have thought about it, nations affected by the tariff have reacted. First, China responded by imposing 10 up to 15% tariff on American goods worth $22 billion, focusing on strategically important agricultural sectors, such for example soybeans, meat and food products. Canada announced a plan for progressive tariff on over $100 billion of American products, hitting sectors like alcoholic beverages and agricultural goods. Canada also threatened further measures such as reducing energy supplies to the United States. And last, Mexico has not yet announced a specific measure but has publicly stated that it has alternative plans ready in case of further escalation. And now, threats against Europe. Trump has repeatedly threatened by introducing high tariff on imports from the European Union, especially in the automotive and agri-food sectors. If it carried out, the threats could seriously undermine transatlantic trade relations, leading to increasing cost and serious damage both to European Union and America. So now let's talk about the long-term impact and business strategies. Companies must adopt proactive strategies to manage the risk arising from those trade policies. So first, diversifying sources of supply, flexible pricing strategies to handle potential cost increases, ongoing assessment of geopolitical and commercial risks, and innovation in logistics and supply chain management. In conclusion, the tariff policy introduced by Trump has significantly changed the international economic landscape, exposing risks and vulnerabilities in the global market. Businesses and governments will need to closely monitor those dynamics to mitigate negative effects and seize any emerging opportunities. So, thank you for watching this video. I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments on these and other relevant economic topics. Of course, and again, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share it and turn on notifications so you won't miss upcoming updates. See you next week!